Well, thank you. My sister is also one of my favorite people. Okay, so yes, being a fun mom. So a few months ago, we actually took our kids, we surprised them with a little staycation, and we took them to a hotel that was nearby that has water slides. And so we pulled up to the hotel, and they were like, what are we doing? Because we didn't tell them anything. We had packed stuff for them, and so they didn't know. So they were so excited when they realized, we're staying at a hotel. And then they were even more excited when we walked into the lobby, and through the lobby, you can see out to these huge water slides. And they were like, there's water slides! They were so excited. So as you can imagine, we immediately went to the room, changed into our bathing suits, and then before we knew it, we were going down water slides and playing in the pools, and then they had a basketball court there, and none of us play basketball, but we played a game of basketball. And we were just having the best time. So seeing their smiling faces, the constant, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Mom and Dad. Hearing their gratefulness, seeing the smiles, the good conversations. It was such a wonderful time. You could tell that they were enjoying every minute of it. And then my husband and I were enjoying every minute watching them enjoy it. Well, we are just earthly parents, and we can do fun things and give gifts to our children, but really the ultimate gift giver is God. God is the one that, as it says in Acts, gives us life and breath, and it literally says, and everything else. So anything that you can possibly imagine is a gift from God. And we see in James 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. So the Bible clearly tells us that the wonderful gifts that we've been given in our life are from God, our heavenly Father. And the amazing thing is that even though we live in a world that can have a lot of difficulties, and we can experience pain and trials and sorrow and all of those kinds of things, that God gives us gifts that we can enjoy. And he actually wants us to enjoy them. It says in Ecclesiastes 2:24 and 25, it says, there is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? Because of God, we are able to enjoy things. Those times where you're doing something with your family, and again, you're smiling and you're laughing and you feel all of those warm, fuzzy feelings inside. That has all been given to us by God. And because he is the one that has given us those gifts, and because he has given them to us for us to enjoy, we then can be thankful to him because he is the giver. So just as our kids, I can't even tell you how many times they said to us in those few days, thank you so much, that we also should turn to God, who is giving us these gifts, and continually give him thanks and show our gratefulness for the things that he has given us. And one of the things that it says that God has given us is our children. And so Psalm 127, 3-5 says this. It says, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. So we're seeing here in this verse that it says that children are a heritage from the Lord. And when we see here where it says, blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them, blessed, when we see that word in the Bible, so often it means happy. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them, full of children. When we have children, God is giving them to us as a gift. And yes, there is work involved in that. And yes, there are going to be some hard days with that. But he has given us, one of the reasons he's given us this gift is that we can enjoy it. We can enjoy our time with our children. So how do we do that? One of the things that we can do is just making time for fun with our kids. This can be done every single day and should be done every single day. We should be setting aside time for undistracted time to focus on just having fun with our kids. Now, if you're like me, I'm very free flowing. I don't like to be, weighed down by schedules and timelines. And so for me, my setting aside of this time every day is more like, okay, when we're done with these tasks, then we'll do this. I homeschool my kids, so usually it's like, okay, when we're done with our schoolwork or when we're taking a break from schoolwork, then we're going to do this fun thing. Or once we're done with all of the chores, then we're going to do this fun thing. But you may be somebody that really loves the schedules and the timelines in your life. And so it may be helpful for you to actually put this as an item on your schedule. Fun time with the kids. Now, this doesn't have to be hours long. This doesn't mean that you need to take them to a hotel for days. This doesn't mean that you need to take them to Disneyland every day. These can be things that can be, hey, if it's a busy day and you've got 15, 20 minutes to just focus on your kids and have fun with them, then great. Then you've got 15, 20 minutes. If it's a day where you maybe have an hour and a half, or maybe it's a weekend where you and your spouse are like, hey, let's go and do something extra fun, the big fun things that we can sometimes do for our kids. Those are awesome too. But it doesn't always have to be something that is really expensive where you're like, oh my goodness, we're going to spend so much money on this. But it can just be simple things that you do at home. Now, I'm going to give, before we start getting into some of the practical things that you guys can do with your kids and kind of a recipe for having fun, I am going to give you a quick side note on fun killers. We're moms, and we're really good at saying no to things, and we are definitely sometimes a little too good at killing fun. So let's make sure we don't do that all the time. Here are 3 fun killers. So number one on that list is when children don't have consistent teaching and discipline. If your children don't have that consistent teaching and discipline, and they are so out of control, it can be really difficult to have fun times that both of you actually enjoy, where there's not just total and complete frustration or anger on both sides, because you're getting frustrated with them and they're getting frustrated with you. And so when there is consistent teaching them to do what God tells them to do, and then there's discipline, there's consequences for when they don't do that, there's rewards for when they do. When they don't have that consistently, it's going to be really difficult to have those fun times. And that's not to say that you aren't going to have times, even if your children are getting that consistent teaching and discipline, that you aren't going to have times where you do have to stop and discipline. It was really funny. The other day, my kids love to look back through videos from when they were younger. And we came across this video where I was taking a video to send to my husband to show him the fun thing that we were doing together. And in the video, one of my children turned and pushed the other one because they wanted to go first with the activity that we were doing. And immediately I shut the video off. And so the video cuts off, and my kids who are watching this video with me were like, oh, you were about to get a discipline. I'm like, yeah, you were. That's why I turned the video off. So anyway, those times, of course, are going to happen because our children are not perfect human beings. But it definitely does help when they do have the consistent teaching and discipline. But another big fun killer is when I am too concerned about the mess. This is going to be way too messy. We often clean up a lot of messes throughout the day. And so thinking about one more mess to clean up can really bother us. But sometimes really fun things make a mess. And so sometimes we have to be okay with the mess instead of constantly killing the fun by being like, no, that's gonna make a mess, or you're gonna be a mess, and then I'm gonna have to bathe you. Or sometimes we just need to let the mess happen so that we can have fun. And we'll worry about cleaning it later. The mess will be there later. And it's also a good opportunity to teach your kids to help you clean up the mess. But the third one is a fun killer is when I am consistently afraid that they will get hurt. Moms can be known for worrying a little too much or being a little too protective of their kids. And it definitely kills fun if you're like, oh, don't do that. Oh, wait, don't touch that. Oh, don't jump off of that. If you are kind of this balled up, tense, anxious mess, nobody is having fun, let me tell you. So it is really good for us to learn to sometimes let our children do dangerous things in careful ways. And sometimes those things are really, really fun. And we have to learn to chill out so that we don't ruin the fun. I'm not telling you to let your kids go run out in the middle of the street where there's cars, obviously. But, some stitches and a cast are not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? And it actually gives them a great story to tell later on. Yes, my kids have always been like, you see this? I got this by doing a slip and slide at my Tia's house. Yes, my sister knows that story well. As she called us from the ER being like, so I have been at the ER and he has to get stitches. And we laughed about it. So those are definitely some fun killers. And so we need to be aware of those things so that we can kind of push those aside so we can really have fun and loosen up and enjoy those times with our kids. Okay. So now we're going to get into our little recipe for fun. I'm going to give some really practical examples. So these are all things that I've done with my kids. And like I said, I'm really free-flowing. So these are things that I just thought of on the fly, and we did them, and we had a great time. So I'm going to share those things with you. But in a recipe for fun, number one is doing something unexpected. There are the things that we do every single day. We eat, you change diapers, you clean up, you teach, all of the normal things that we do in the day. But sometimes it's so fun to just do something completely unexpected. So when my kids were little, like toddler age, I would pull out their little mattresses, they're like little toddler mattresses. I would pull them out and put them in front of the couch with a bunch of pillows and then let them jump off the couch onto the mattresses and pillows. And they loved that. We would put on some of our favorite music that they loved to dance to, and we would kind of dance around and they would jump off, and sometimes they'd jump off to me, or they would just face plant right in the pillows and the mattress, and that was so much fun. So again, these are things that we have in our house. This is not something that's expensive, and we spent like 20, 30 minutes doing this. It helped to get their energy out, but we were laughing and I was cheering them on, and we're like, okay, a nice big jump this time. 1, 2, 3, go. And so we really had a lot of fun doing that. Another thing that I did, so when my kids were little, we lived in an apartment, and so all we had was a balcony. And there was one day that was particularly hot, and I was like, I don't have a kiddie pool. But I'm like, but I do have plastic bins, like that one right there, plastic bins. And so what I did was I filled the plastic bins with water, and we didn't have a hose. So I was literally filling up our big pot and then taking them out to the balcony and putting them in the bins. So I put these bins out on the balcony, and we literally all sat in plastic bins with water in them and had a pool party. So, yes. So, but and that probably, I don't know, we had fun with that for like an hour. And they were, I got things from the kitchen, and they were pretending like they were making coffee drinks because their dad drinks a lot of coffee. And so they think if an adult's going to drink anything, it's obviously coffee. And so they were making me coffee drinks, and we were just playing, and they're splashing around in the water. And it helped us on that hot day. So that was a ton of fun. Another thing that you can do, maybe when your kids get a little bit older, is letting them do a performance, and then you dress up in fancy clothes to watch the performance. So my husband and I, one time, I told the kids, I'm like, okay, you guys are going to do a performance for mommy and daddy tonight, and it's going to be really fancy. So they came up with what they were going to do. They were going to sing these songs from church, and then I helped them make tickets for their show. And then my husband dressed up in his suit. And I actually went and put my wedding dress on because it was the fanciest dress I have. And was, side note, also very disappointed by the fact that I could not zip it up all the way. But that's another topic. And put that wedding dress on, and we sat down and watched their performance, and we were laughing and smiling, and it was great. We had such a fun time. Another thing is, unexpected, we're used to sitting next to the bathtub while our kids are in the bath, and we're interacting with them. But I would every once in a while put my bathing suit on, and I would get into the bathtub with them during their bath time. And they thought that was the funnest thing ever, that I was in the bath with them. And again, you can do this even when your kids are little and you're bathing them. You just get in the bathtub with them and play with them in there. Okay, and then, another one is when it's raining outside, letting them play in the rain. And I would go out and play in the rain with them, and we would dance around. And you know what? Sometimes, we live in Southern California. How often does it rain? So sometimes we didn't have the rain boots and the raincoat. We would just go out in our regular clothes. We'd dance around in the rain, get soaking wet, and then when we were done, we would all go in our clothes, and we would all get into the bathtub in our clothes because we were cold, and we would turn the bathtub on hot, and the kids thought that it was so funny. Again, does it get water all over the place? And is it, the greatest for when you have those soaking wet clothes there? But again, the mess, okay, we can deal with that. It's just water. And, not being afraid of your kids getting sick. Oh, they're going to get cold out there. And we warmed up in the bathtub, and then we were all fine, and we snuggled afterwards, and it was great. Okay, so number 2 in our recipe for fun is just changing the location. So again, all of the regular things that we do in life, sometimes if you just change the location, it's so much fun. So we did this by, normally I would sit on the couch with them and we would read together. But sometimes I'd be like, okay, we're gonna build a fort, and then I'm going to get a flashlight, and we're going to read inside the fort. And we had so much fun just sitting in there together and reading in the fort. Another thing is camping in the backyard. So camping in the backyard, we've done camping in the backyard, and we've done camping in the living room, where we literally set up our full tent in the living room or in the backyard. We got our sleeping bags. We even did our hot dogs in our fireplace or in our bonfire pit outside. And so, we're just camping, but we didn't have to go anywhere, and it was much easier. And we had a working bathroom, so that was nice. So that's something you can do. Another thing that you can do is, okay, so eating lunch. You can do things like, having a picnic outside with your lunch, or something we did one time. I was having one of the kids help me with lunch, and so they were make lunch, and they were sitting on top of the counter. And I was like, you know what? Let's sit on the counter and eat our lunch today. And so all three of my kids, I got them up on the counter, and we all sat crisscross applesauce on our counter in the kitchen, and we just ate lunch up on the counter. And then this was a funny one. But we also, even one time, we ate up on the roof. We ate lunch on the roof because we only live in a one-story house, and we have a ladder, and we can get up onto the roof easily. And so we got up onto the roof. I have pictures of all of these things. You guys are like, you're crazy. We literally did do this. So we all sat up on the roof of our house looking at everything that we could see, and we just ate lunch up on the roof. Now, our kids were not toddlers at this point. They were a little bit older, so don't worry. I did not let our toddler children up on the roof. I'm not that crazy. Little crazy, but not that crazy. Okay, so the third one is be silly. That can sometimes be difficult for us when we're adults and, we're more mature in our adulthood. And so we just don't think about silly things anymore, or we feel weird acting silly. But oftentimes, just being silly with your kids can be so much fun. We would make puppets and put on puppet shows. And so we would take turns who was the audience and then who was doing the puppets. And other times we would put on costumes, and we would do a dance party in our costumes. So we'd just put on anything we had. We didn't even have like actual costumes. The boys would, put on their dad's ties or wear his shoes, or my daughter and I would put on like all of the jewelry that I have. And anyway, any costume type stuff that we could find. And then we would just have a dance party, and we'd dance around the house to all of our favorite music in our costumes, which is super fun. Another thing that's silly that you can do is we love doing tea parties at our house. So now that my kids are older, we do tea and poetry. I read poetry to them while we have our tea. But when they were younger, it was so fun for them if we all pretended to be different characters. So their favorite character that I was during our tea party was a British woman named Mrs. Ramsbottom, who was very offended when they did not obey all of the very important etiquette for tea parties. And they would laugh when I would just be horrified that they did not, put their pinky up while they were drinking their tea. And so we just would be these different funny characters, and the kids love that. But again, that takes a level of just being silly that sometimes we're not as comfortable with, but it pays off once you get past this feels kind of awkward, and you just really give in to the silliness. We also would we had face paint laying around from Halloween. And so I was like, oh my goodness, let's do face painting today. We're going to paint faces. I'm going to paint mine too. And then they wanted to be animals. So I'm like, okay, but you have to act like the animal that your face is painted as. And so then they wanted me to be an animal too. So I was an animal, and we all got on the floor, and we were acting like the animal of our face paint. And then we just kept the face paint on all day, even when we weren't acting like the animals. Okay, so number 4 is, in a recipe for fun, is making sure that the activities are age appropriate. Like I said, I didn't let my toddlers get up on the roof to have lunch. So there are certain things that are going to be frustrating for them and frustrating for us if we try to get them to do this thing and it's just not age appropriate for them. They don't understand it, or they just cannot physically do it because they're little. So examples of this would be there was a time where we had extra wood left over from a project that my husband was doing. And so I was like, we are going to build a fort in the backyard with all of this extra wood. So I'm like, okay, we're getting out the power tools and the hammers and the nails and the screws and all of that. And I was letting them do it after I showed them the proper way to do it. But they were at this point, my two oldest were 7 years old and my youngest was 5. And so I was confident that once I showed them how to do these things, that they could do them carefully. And they did. And we built a fort. But again, not something that you would do when your kids are really, really little. Playing board games. We love to play board games and card games with our kids. That's another fun thing that you can do, but also not really something for the little ones because they may not understand, or sometimes it's just they need a simpler game. You're not going to play Risk with them or Axis and Allies. You're going to play, a simple game like Chutes and Ladders or something like that. Something that you can do really at all ages is baking together. So getting them involved in baking or making food with you. And sometimes, when they were really, really little, it would be a simple task like, okay, you're gonna rip up the lettuce to put in the salad that we're gonna do tonight. And they would have the best time with that because when else do they get to just rip things up? And I'm like, and it didn't matter to us if they ripped up big pieces or they ripped it up too small. It doesn't really matter. So, or they would go from me putting the flour in the measuring cup and then they would just dump it into the bowl to now my kids I am able to give them a recipe and they can make it 100% by themselves, except for the fact that I like to do it with them because it's something fun for us to do. So just take into consideration their age and what they're actually capable of doing. But something else that's really wonderful at all ages is just snuggling with them. Sometimes when it's been a crazy day or a hectic day, sometimes that time of enjoyment is really just your child snuggling with you. I give our kids what they call rubbies, where I rub their back or I rub their hair. And there's something so wonderful about just those peaceful times of being able to snuggle up with your children. I'm thankful that my 11-year-olds and my 9-year-old will still snuggle with me. I don't know how long that's going to last for, but I'm enjoying it even now as they're older. So that can be done at various ages. Something else to do with them that, especially when they're really little, is singing songs with them. So when I would be feeding them when they were in the high chair, or again, when they're in the bath for bath time, is I would just sing all kinds of songs with them. And I then started to realize that they had their favorites. And so then I would sing them their favorite songs. So yeah, and your kids, by the way, don't care if you have a good voice or not. They really don't. They just love that you're interacting with them. Which, side note on that too, I forgot to say this earlier. Your cell phone can be such a distraction for you focusing on your children. And because this really needs to be an undistracted, focused time with them, if it is really tempting for you, just put your cell phone in the other room or put it on silent. Do whatever you need to do so that you're not just reaching for that phone when it can be so distracting. And then you're not really engaging with your kids because it's really about engaging with them. Okay, sorry, that was a side note because I forgot to say that earlier. But the fifth thing would be to have an exit strategy. So we all know that our children, if they had it their way, they would have our undivided, undistracted attention 100% of the time doing fun stuff all day long. But it's not practical for our lives. We have other responsibilities and other things that we need to do. And so we have to cut it off at some point. So different things that you can do to really help your kids is to give them time warnings. So I would say, okay, 5 more minutes, and then we're going to be all done with this. Now, that gets a little bit trickier when they're really little and they don't quite understand the concept of time yet. But we also use a visual clock. I don't know if you guys have seen those where as you turn, I should have put a picture up of this, but as you turn it, it turns red and then it'll count down. And as it's counting down the time, the red gets less and less and less. So it's just a visual to them of, oh, the time is getting less. So using visual countdown timers and then letting them know what you're going to do when you move on from fun time. So letting them know, okay, when we're done with this, we're gonna clean up our mess, and then mommy is going to go do the dishes, and you are going to stay here and I got you these wonderful books, and you're gonna look at the books. So just letting them know ahead of time what that next thing is going to be, instead of just cutting it off and be like, we're done, and then turning and doing the dishes. And they're like, what? And then oftentimes that can cause some problems, as I'm sure you guys have experienced and know. So definitely letting them know what is next, how much longer they have. The more that you can communicate those things, the more it sets them up for being able to move on without any problems. Okay, so I have a few more examples, practical examples, that didn't perfectly fit into any one of these categories, or they fit into multiple of them. But some other things that you can do is taking turns telling stories. So we would, the kids would sit in front of the fireplace, and whoever was sitting at the fireplace, they were the one that got to tell the story. So they had a few minutes to tell some crazy story. Sometimes if they needed help, I would say, okay, tell us a story about an elephant, or tell us a story about pirates, or sometimes I would give them things to do, or sometimes they would just come up with it on their own and they'd go with the story. And then we would take turns, each of us telling stories. So I would participate in that too. Another fun thing to do is tickle time. I mean, little kids, my kids, as they're older, not so much anymore. But when they were little, they loved being tickled. So just taking that moment to say, you know what? I was doing this, I'm going to try, and I'm going to tickle you right now. And so tickling them, and they're laughing, and then sometimes even chasing them around, and they laugh and they squeal, and it's just, that can be so much fun. Again, it doesn't have to be hours long. It can even just be a quick 10-minute, 15-minute thing where you're focusing on just having fun with them. Decorating large cardboard boxes and letting them play in them. Oh, so much fun. We got a new washing machine, and it came with this really big box, and we had fun with that box for a while. So we decorated it. We cut a door in it. There was one point that I don't know why we had so many boxes. Maybe it was when we moved. But my husband made this whole tunnel system for them of boxes. And so anyway, cardboard boxes are the best. Endless. They even would. We have videos of them pulling my little niece around, and she would sit in the cardboard box, and they had a little rope, and she would hold on to the rope, and they would pull her around the house, and then, because they're a little bit heavier, I would be the one that would pull them around the house, and we had so much fun with that. So love boxes. As they get a little older, going on hikes with them, even when they're little, if you have to, wear them while on the hike, but just being out in nature with them and walking around and talking to them about the beauty that God has in creation. Our kids love hiking. We love hiking. It's also really fun to bring your kids into the things that you love and watch them enjoy it too. And the sweetness of seeing that they love it because you love it. That it's like, oh, this is something that mom and dad do, and we get to do it with them. And so they think that it's cool because of that. Also, sometimes we just do random special treats. So dessert is not a thing in our household. Sometimes I think, man, am I depriving my kids too much of sweets and stuff? But because we don't do a whole lot of sweets, when we do, it's a huge deal. So sometimes, it's like my husband walks in from work and I'm like, honey, we had a really good day today and we had some good behavior. And I always do this in front of the kids because they're like, oh, what's she going to say? What's she going to say? And I'm like, I think that we should go get churros for dinner. And they're like, what? And they think that it is the most amazing thing ever. Or I think that we should go get yogurt land, or something like that's not a normal part of their everyday life. So being able to just do random special treats with them, and then I'm not gonna lie, then I get churros too, and I also get yogurt land, so you get to enjoy it as well. But these are all just, again, there are so many different resources out there for getting ideas of fun things to do with your kids. I'm not on social media, but I'm sure there's tons of people on Instagram that have videos. They do videos on Instagram, videos or pictures or whatever they do on Instagram that show you fun things that they're doing with their kids. Or you can just, look it up online or ask other moms that are further along than you in mothering, and ask them, what did you do for fun with your kids? There are a lot of different ways that you can find fun things to do. But as you're doing those things, it is always good to just constantly remember when you see those smiles, when your heart feels so full, when you guys are all laughing together, to remember that that is a gift from God, and never forget to express your gratefulness to Him for those times that you get to have with your kids. All right, and that is all I have to say for today. If you guys, and I forgot to say, if you guys ever have any other questions about doing fun things with your kids or whatever, I have endless. My sister picked me for this because I'm kind of weird, and so I think of weird things. So I have endless weird fun things to do with your children inside my brain, and I'd love to help you anytime with that. But thank you so much for having me today to talk about this.